Have you ever looked at someone you love and wondered if you're losing your mind? Lauren Mitchell sat in her car outside the restaurant, staring at her phone. The text from Ryan glowed on the screen. "Running late, babe. Order for me. You know what I like." She did know. She knew everything he liked, every preference, every mood, every shifting version of reality he'd create. But tonight, something felt different. Tonight, she'd started to remember. Dr. Emily Carter had seen this pattern hundreds of times in her practice. A person walks in, confused and shaken, questioning their own memory. They apologize for taking up space. They minimize their pain. And always, always, they ask the same question: am I crazy? The answer is never yes, but the journey to understanding takes courage most people don't know they have. Lauren was 32. She worked as a marketing director for a tech startup in Seattle. Smart, capable, organized. Her friends called her the problem solver, the person who always had answers. But for the past 18 months, she'd been solving the wrong problems. She'd been trying to fix herself when she wasn't broken. She'd been living with a narcissist. It started so beautifully. Ryan was charming, confident. He walked into rooms like he owned them. At their first meeting, he'd complimented her ideas in front of the whole team, made her feel seen, special, chosen. That was the hook. What she didn't see was the pattern, the cycle that repeats in narcissistic relationships like clockwork. Idealization, devaluation, discard. The three phases that trap partners in confusion so thick they can barely breathe. Ryan moved fast. Within 2 months, they were exclusive. Within 4, he'd moved into her apartment. "Why pay 2 rents?" he'd said, grinning that smile that made her forget every red flag waving in the wind. The compliments continued, but they came with strings now, invisible threads that tightened slowly. "You look amazing in that dress, not like those other women at your office who've let themselves go. You're so smart, smarter than most women I've dated. They were also needy. I love how independent you are, not clingy like my ex." Every compliment contained the criticism of someone else. Every praise came with a comparison, and slowly, subtly, Lauren started measuring herself against these invisible others, started working harder to stay on the right side of his approval. But here's what she didn't know yet. Approval from a narcissist is conditional, temporary, a prize that moves further away the closer you get. The first real crack appeared at her office party. Lauren had been talking to Marcus, a colleague, about a new project. Just talking. Professional, friendly. When she looked up, Ryan was watching from across the room. His expression was smooth, neutral, but his eyes were ice. On the drive home, silence filled the car like poison gas. "So Marcus," Ryan finally said. His voice was casual, too casual. "What about him? You two seemed close." "We worked together. We were discussing the Johnson account." Ryan laughed, a short, sharp sound without humor. "Right, the Johnson account. Is that what you're calling it?" Lauren felt her stomach drop. "Ryan, nothing happened. We were talking about work. I saw how he looked at you." "How did he look at me?" "Like he wanted you." Ryan's voice hardened. "And you were encouraging it." "I wasn't encouraging anything." "You were laughing, touching his arm." "Don't gaslight me, Lauren." And there it was, the word that would become a weapon: gaslighting. Ryan accused her of the very thing he was doing, making her question her own perception, her own memory, her own reality. This is textbook narcissistic manipulation. According to DSM-5 criteria, individuals with narcissistic personality disorder often lack empathy, require excessive admiration, and have an inflated sense of self-importance. But the diagnostic manual doesn't capture the lived experience, the daily erosion of self that happens when you love someone who sees you as an extension of themselves, rather than a separate person. Lauren apologized that night for something she didn't do, just to make the tension stop, just to see him smile again, just to feel like she could breathe. That was her first mistake, but it wouldn't be her last. The pattern intensified. Ryan's criticism became more frequent, more cutting, disguised as concern. "Are you sure you want to eat that? You've been stressed. Stress makes people gain weight. Maybe you should skip this meeting. You haven't been performing well lately. I'm worried about you. You're not yourself. Maybe you should see someone." Each comment was a paper cut, small enough to dismiss, but enough of them and you're bleeding without knowing where the wound began. Lauren found herself changing, walking on eggshells, monitoring her words, her tone, her expressions. She stopped talking about work successes because Ryan would find ways to diminish them. Stopped seeing certain friends because he'd sulk for days afterward. Stopped wearing clothes he didn't approve of, going places he didn't like, having opinions he disagreed with. She was disappearing, piece by piece, and she didn't even notice. But here's what changes everything. One Tuesday afternoon, Lauren's best friend Zoe came to visit. They hadn't seen each other in months. Ryan always had a reason why it wasn't a good time. Zoe walked in and just stared. "Lauren, what happened to you? What do you mean? You look, I don't know, tired, thin. When's the last time you laughed?" Lauren tried to remember, couldn't. "Things have been stressful at work," she said automatically, the script Ryan had written for her. "How's Ryan?" "He's great, really supportive." Zoe's expression said she didn't believe a word. "Can I ask you something? And I want you to really think about your answer. Are you happy?" The question landed like a bomb because Lauren realized she couldn't remember what happy felt like. She'd been so focused on keeping Ryan happy, managing his moods, avoiding his criticism, that her own happiness had become irrelevant. Tears came before words, big, silent tears that scared them both. "Oh, honey," Zoe whispered, pulling her close. "What has he done to you?" That's when the story started. Lauren began talking, and once she started talking, she couldn't stop. The put-downs disguised as jokes, the rage over tiny mistakes, the silent treatment that lasted days, the accusations, the constant monitoring of her phone, her schedule, her friendships, the way he'd rewrite history, insisting events happened differently than she remembered, the way she'd started doubting everything, even her own thoughts. "That's not normal," Zoe said quietly. "None of that is normal. But he loves me. He says he's trying to make me better." "Lauren, love doesn't make you smaller. It makes you bigger. Love doesn't question your reality. It respects it." Those words, they stayed. They grew. They started breaking through the fog Ryan had created. That night, Lauren did something she hadn't done in months. She Googled, "Why does my partner make me feel crazy?" The results were like a mirror held up to her life. Narcissistic Personality Disorder, emotional abuse, gaslighting, love bombing, triangulation, discard phase. Every term describes something she'd experienced. Every article felt like someone had been watching her life and writing it down. But seeing it didn't mean she could leave. Not yet. That's the thing about narcissistic relationships. Knowledge isn't enough, because narcissists are masters at manipulation. They know exactly which buttons to push, exactly which vulnerabilities to exploit, and they always have a response that makes you doubt what you know to be true. When Lauren confronted Ryan about his behavior, he didn't yell. He cried. "I can't believe you think I'm abusive. After everything I've done for you, I gave up my apartment. I support your career. I've been patient with your mood swings, your insecurity, your need for constant reassurance, and this is how you repay me? By calling me an abuser?" He'd flipped the script.
made himself the victim, made her the abuser. And for a moment, Lauren believed him, apologized, comforted him while he cried about how hurt he was by her accusations. This is called DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. It's a manipulation tactic used by abusers to avoid accountability and maintain control. And it works. It works so well that victims often end up comforting their abusers, apologizing for their own pain.
But something had shifted in Lauren, a small voice that Zoe's words had awakened, a tiny seed of doubt about Ryan's version of reality. She started paying attention, keeping notes, writing down what he said, when he said it, how it made her feel. Documentation became her anchor to truth. 3 weeks later, Ryan exploded over laundry. Lauren had washed his favorite shirt wrong. It shrank. He screamed for an hour about her incompetence, her carelessness, how she never thought about anyone but herself. And in the middle of his rage, Lawrence saw him clearly for the first time. Really saw him. Not the charming man from the beginning, not the victim crying about being misunderstood, but the reality, a man who needed to control, who fed on her pain, who would never change because he didn't think anything was wrong. The rage wasn't about a shirt. It was never about what he said it was about. It was about power, about keeping her scared, small, and submissive. That night, while Ryan slept, Lauren packed a bag, called Zoe, left. Walking out the door was terrifying. Ryan had spent months telling her she couldn't survive without him, that she was too emotional, too flawed, too broken. Part of her believed it, but a bigger part remembered who she was before him, the problem solver, the person with answers. And she knew if she stayed, there would be nothing left to solve, just pieces too shattered to put back together. The first week away was hell. Ryan called 50 times a day, texted hundreds of messages, apologies, promises to change, threats, insults, love declarations, rage, the full spectrum of manipulation tactics designed to pull her back. I'll kill myself if you don't come back. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. No one will ever love you like I do. Please, baby, I need you. I can't live without you. Each message was designed to trigger a response: fear, guilt, hope, obligation, the emotional hooks narcissists use to maintain supply. Because that's what partners are to narcissists. Not people. Supply. Sources of attention, admiration, and control. Lauren blocked his number, deleted social media, stayed with Zoe, and cried. Cried for the person she thought Ryan was. Cried for the relationship she'd wanted. Cried for the time she'd lost. Cried for herself. And then she made an appointment with Dr. Emily Carter. The first therapy session was hard. Lauren spent most of it apologizing for crying, for taking up time, for not being strong enough to handle things on her own. "You're apologizing for having feelings," Dr. Carter observed gently. "Who taught you that feelings were something to apologize for?" The question hit hard because Lauren knew Ryan had taught her that. Every time she'd expressed hurt, he'd responded with anger or indifference. Every time she'd shown vulnerability, he'd used it against her later. She learned to make herself smaller, quieter, less. "Let me tell you what I see," Dr. Carter said gently. "I see someone who survived emotional abuse, someone who's stronger than they know, and someone who's taking the first step toward reclaiming themselves. That's not weakness, that's courage." Dr. Carter explained narcissistic personality disorder in terms Lauren could understand: the grandiosity masking deep insecurity, the lack of empathy, the need for constant admiration, the inability to accept criticism, the pattern of idealize, devalue, discard that keeps partners trapped in confusion. Research shows that partners of individuals with narcissistic traits often experience increased anxiety, depression, and dependency. The manipulation erodes your sense of self, makes you question reality. That's not your fault. That's by design. Narcissists need you to doubt yourself so they can maintain control. Lauren felt something shift, validation. For months, she'd been told her feelings were wrong, her perceptions were flawed, her reactions were excessive. Hearing a professional confirm that what she'd experienced was real, was abuse, was not her fault, it was like oxygen after drowning. So what do I do now? Now, we heal. We work on rebuilding your sense of self, setting boundaries, understanding the patterns so you don't repeat them, learning to trust your own judgment again. It's not quick, it's not easy, but it's possible. The healing process was exactly what Dr. Carter promised. Not quick, not easy, but it's possible. Lauren learned about trauma bonding, the chemical addiction that happens in abusive relationships, the intermittent reinforcement that makes leaving so hard. She learned about boundaries, how to say no without guilt, how to protect her peace without apologizing for it. She learned about narcissistic supply and why Ryan kept trying to contact her, not because he loved her, but because he'd lost his source of validation, his mirror, his emotional dumping ground. If you're watching this and recognizing patterns in your own life, I want you to hit that like button and share this video. Someone you know might be living this story right now and needs to hear they're not alone. Most importantly, Lauren learned to trust herself again. It started small, noticing when her gut said something was wrong and believing it instead of dismissing it, making decisions without second-guessing every choice, having opinions without bracing for criticism. She rejoined her book club, started running again, reconnected with friends. Slowly, the person she was before Ryan began to resurface, but different now, stronger, more aware, less willing to accept less than she deserved. 4 months into therapy, Lauren went on a date. Nice guy, respectful, but halfway through dinner, he made a joke at the waitress's expense. Small thing. The old Lauren might have laughed it off. The new Lauren excused herself and left. "I'm not accepting crumbs anymore," she told Dr. Carter the next session. "I know what respect looks like now, what kindness looks like, what healthy looks like, and I'm not settling for less." Dr. Carter smiled. That's not being picky, that's having standards, that's growth. But healing isn't linear. Some days, Lauren still heard Ryan's voice in her head, still questioned if she'd overreacted, still felt guilt for leaving. Those were the hard days, the days when the trauma response kicked in and told her she was the problem. On those days, she'd read her notes, the documentation of what really happened, the text, the patterns, the proof that her memory was reliable, her feelings were valid, her decision to leave was right. Abuse rewires your brain. You spent 18 months in survival mode. Your nervous system was constantly activated. That doesn't just switch off when the threat ends. We're retraining your brain to feel safe again. That takes time. So Lauren practiced safety, grounding techniques when anxiety spiked, boundary setting when people pushed, self-compassion when shame crept in, small acts of reclaiming her life, her peace, herself. 6 months after leaving, Lauren got a promotion at work. The irony wasn't lost on her. Ryan had always said she wasn't performing well, that her career was stalling because of her incompetence. But without his constant criticism, without the energy drain of managing his moods, without the anxiety of walking on eggshells, she'd thrived. Because here's the truth about narcissistic relationships. They don't make you better. They make you smaller. They don't challenge you to grow. They challenge you to shrink. And when you finally leave, when you finally break free, you realize how much of yourself you'd given away, and you start taking it back. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about healing, growth, and reclaiming your power after toxic relationships. Today, Lauren is still in therapy, still healing, Still learning. Does she have panic attacks sometimes? Yes. Does she still struggle with trust? Absolutely. Does she second guess herself more than she'd like? Often. But she's free. Free from manipulation, free from gaslighting, free from criticism disguised as love. And that freedom, messy and imperfect as it is, feels like breathing after being underwater too long. Recovery isn't about being completely healed, Dr. Carter told her recently. It's about being aware, having tools, knowing your worth, and choosing yourself even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Lauren thinks about Ryan sometimes, wonders if he's found someone new. Probably has. Narcissists don't stay alone long. They need supply, need someone to feed their ego, need someone to control. But she doesn't wonder about going back. That door is closed, locked, barricaded, because she remembers now, remembers who she was, who she is, who she's becoming. And that person deserves better than crumbs disguised as love. If you're in a relationship that makes you question your sanity, that makes you smaller instead of bigger, that fills you with anxiety instead of peace, listen to your gut. It's not broken. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive or too needy or too much. You're being manipulated, and you deserve better. Real love doesn't tear you down. It builds you up. Real love doesn't question your reality. It respects it. Real love doesn't make you choose between yourself and the relationship. It makes room for both. The journey out of narcissistic abuse is hard. It's painful. It's lonely sometimes, but it's worth it. Because on the other side of that pain is yourself, the real you, the whole you, the you that was there before someone tried to dim your light. And that person is worth fighting for. Dr. Emily Carter closed Lauren's file that evening and leaned back in her chair. Another survivor, another person who'd found the courage to leave, to heal, to choose themselves. The work was never easy. The stories were never simple. But moments like these, watching someone reclaim their life, that's why she did this. And late that night, Lauren sat in her apartment. Her apartment. Her space. No one to monitor her comings and goings. No one to criticize her choices. No one to make her feel less than. She looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. And for the first time in years, she recognized the person staring back. "Welcome home," she whispered to her reflection. But the healing journey revealed something even Lauren hadn't expected, something that would change everything she thought she understood about herself and relationships. Because sometimes the hardest part of healing isn't leaving, it's learning to trust yourself enough to love again. What's your biggest fear after a toxic relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else realize they're not alone.